Hello, 8 Green students. Hopefully you just got done watching an awesome comeback win by the Chiefs. Um, what a great victory, moving to 2-0. But we're here to talk about the age of exploration. We're actually going to look at land claims today and a little bit about colonization by the four strong nations, which we learned about last week: England, France, Spain, and Portugal. So here's the New World: North America, South America. And you can see by the key down here, everything that's in green is Spanish territory. This tan color is Portugal. The French is much of what is present-day United States and a chunk of Canada. And then British or English would be part of Canada, and then what is the eastern coast of present-day United States. This map also shows a little bit of Russian territory, which we're not really going to get into much. And then there's a tiny sliver of purple down here, which was settled by the Dutch. And the Dutch people come from a country called the Netherlands or Holland. And the Dutch do play a small role in exploration and colonization, so we will talk about them, but not in great detail. We'll focus mostly on Spain, Portugal, France, and Britain or England. Some of the early conquests and claims were really made by the Spanish and the Portuguese, and those two countries were trying to basically divide up the world. So Portugal had mostly been exploring around the tip of Africa, and we'll get to it in a bit, but then they laid claim to Brazil. Spain was laying claim to a lot of this land because of Christopher Columbus. So they eventually created a treaty that divided up the globe between those two countries. That treaty was followed for a bit, but eventually England and France and Holland come in and kind of break that treaty up. So the Portuguese, as you can see, they were most concerned, and we talked about this last week, they were most concerned with trade routes going around Africa, Cape of Good Hope, and then over here to India and the Far East. And a guy named Pedro Cabral was actually trying to sail around the tip of Africa, and a terrible storm blew his ship off course, and boom, he landed over here in what is today Brazil. And so he laid claim to that area for the Portuguese Empire, which is why today, if you go to Brazil, their main native language is Portuguese, whereas most of the rest of South America is Spanish-speaking. So with the Spanish, obviously Christopher Columbus, who was Italian but sailing under the Spanish flag, he laid claim to the Caribbean islands and areas in Central America and part of, the tip of the top part of South America. And then eventually the conquistadors came over, and we will talk about them later this week, but they laid claim to Florida, the interior of what is present-day United States, Mexico, Central America, and then the entire western portion of South America. So you can see the Spanish Empire was pretty big at this time. The Spanish motto was gold, God, and glory. So they were searching for gold. They were looking to spread Christianity, and they were looking to strengthen their empire through land claims and other riches and treasure. So gold, God, and glory was the motto of the Spanish conquistadors or the Spanish explorers. Now the French, the French don't get a lot of credit for their early explorations, but they actually settled a huge chunk of present-day North America, much larger really than the British or even the Spanish when you're looking at North America. You can see they had most of Canada, the Great Lakes region, and down into much of what is the interior of the United States. So why is it we don't speak French as one of our native languages in the United States? That's going to come later when France and Great Britain get into a conflict, and eventually the British force the French out. But if you know anything about Canada, Canada has two official languages. One of those is French, and one of those is English. So it depends on which part of Canada you're in as far as which language they primarily speak. The French also had some claims down in the Caribbean, you can see, and then a little bit on the coast of South America. Okay, the British or the English. And when I say Great Britain or England, it's the same thing. Those terms can be used interchangeably. Technically, it's the British Empire, and England is a part of that, but those two terms get used interchangeably. So when we look at what England settled, they laid claim to the east coast of present-day United States and then Canada as well. There was some conflict with France on who owned what up in Canada, and then there becomes some conflict in this chunk of area in what is known as the Ohio River Valley. And that will come later on in like chapter 4 or 5. But the biggest thing that they settled was the eastern part of the present-day U.S., our 13 original colonies. So when you look at the map again, I shared this one at the very beginning of the presentation. When you look at this map and these 4 nations, 5 counting the Dutch, started to colonize, you can see how the New World was split up. So everything in red was England. So you can see this little strip right here. That's your 13 original colonies that become our first 13 states. This is the Hudson Bay region up in Canada, northern Canada. And then all of this is Canada, the Great Lakes region in the interior. That's all France in blue. Spain controlled everything that's green on this map, massive empire. And obviously these are all Spanish-speaking countries today. And then this is present-day Brazil, which is why it's Portuguese-speaking nation. And each country started setting up colonies, and you can see a colony is a settlement of people living in a new territory, and that the people living there, they're linked to basically a parent country, or a lot of times it's called the mother country. So when the colonists were living in the 13 colonies, their parent country or mother country was England or Great Britain. And that's all I have for you today. Go ahead and, after you're done watching this presentation, work your way through the rest of the tasks in Schoology, and have a wonderful Monday.